Hello, fellow homesteaders. Today we're going to be dehydrating flowers to preserve them. You can dehydrate them solar, outside, if you are off-grid homesteader, or you just want to do a big batch at once or conserve energy. You can do it outside, or you can do it inside. These trays are from my older machine. It's a smidge less powerful, and it's not 100% silent like my new one. So I use it pretty much just for herbs, flowers, roots, berries, nuts, that kind of thing. I don't mind sitting in the garage or somewhere besides the main house to dehydrate. I don't have to worry about mice or anything with getting in it, so I can put it out there, and the smidge of noise it makes, I don't even hear it. But I also like to use these same trays. It's a great way to solar dehydrate. Now I could take these off here and wash them as if I just dehydrated tomatoes. There's no reason you can't use your same dehydrator for wild edibles, and as you can do stuff from your garden or store-bought items. It's just convenient. And I went ahead and put all these flowers on here. One, to show you proper spacing to make sure there's good air ventilation. And I threw in a couple little buds here that weren't opened up. Normally I wouldn't do both together, but sometimes when you're out picking, you get what you get. And you don't want to throw away and waste. But if I was going to do these together, normally I wouldn't put them on the same tray. I just want to show you it could be done. They're more dense, so they take longer. So what I would do is I would separate them out, and I would put all the buds like this on one tray so I could rotate around. These ones would probably take another hour or two longer than the rest of the flowers. And I could start them near the top, which is where the fan is in my machine. And I rotate all my trays around, but I like to start with the thickest, largest type of an item first by the fan and rotate around, and then make a complete cycle so they all get to go from top to bottom to help them dry more evenly. And when you put all of your thick things or large things, and you could dehydrate multiple types of flowers in the same tray or on different trays, but you want to keep like-sized ones together just for even drying, so you don't have to do a bunch of poking and touching and handling them to see what ones are dry, then plucking some out and moving them around in the tray. If you just sort first, you should have more success and be less time consuming. The other reason was to show you how I use my older machine trays to dehydrate. I put my flowers directly through here. If I can turn it without them all falling to show you, you can see all the little stems sticking out the bottom. Now if I was going to have this on a mesh and have it plugged in, I would have to snip those stems off because they would not lay flat. They would be sticking on the side, and I would get flowers that were kind of tilted this way or that way, and they wouldn't dry evenly, and they wouldn't dry as straight and flush. And if you're using these dried flowers for a craft project, you're going to be more concerned with aesthetics than you would if they're going to be for preserved for a wild salad as part of your survival food stores, or just saved to make different recipes around the homestead, or if you're using them for home remedy. Daisies can be eaten, they can be used for medicine, and they are very attractive, so they're also often used for decoration. But I'm going to take this tray outside in just a bit, and I'm going to go ahead and use it for solar dehydrating. So I'm going to have it sitting like this. I'm going to take one of the mesh inserts, which is what I will use when I line the tray here in just a few moments to dehydrate using the machine. But I'm going to take the mesh insert and lay it on top of them. I'm not going to mush it down. It's just going to rest gently on top of the flowers, and that will protect from bugs getting to it. And then I'm going to take another tray and follow suit. And then I can line it, take this off of here, I can line it with more flowers. Oh, something left over from last time. For what that was, it kind of looks like it might have been a daisy. So I can line it with more flowers, put another mesh liner on it, and stack it. And I don't need the rays of the sun to dry them, just the heat. And yes, put them in intense heat and let the rays go, straight down on them. It probably will dry them more quickly, but you can lose some nutrients from that much direct sun for so long, because it's going to take longer to dehydrate in the sun, and you definitely lose the vibrant color of the flowers. So I just need to make sure I have airflow and a constant heat source, and protecting them from getting nibbled on by other critters that would like them as well. So now I am going to dump all my flowers off of here. Normally I wouldn't mess with them that much, but these ones aren't for decoration. They're going to be preserved for, I think I'll make jelly with them. So you're going to use your dehydrator indoors plugged into an outlet. You're going to take your tray there, and you could do them, if you don't have a mesh liner, you can go ahead and give it a shot, The only problem is they may sink down in there if they're smaller ones, and you might lose some things, some petals that fall off and fall to the bottom of your machine. So there's some waste associated if you are dehydrating something that could crinkle up small enough to go through these inserts. So that's up to you. But if you want to give it a try, you're waiting for your mesh liners to come in, you've got wildflowers growing in your backyard, by all means go ahead and take advantage of them. Now this is a solid insert, and this one was actually in the sink from doing cheese yesterday, so it's not clean, please pardon me. This one you would not want. This is if you're doing like fruit leather, or you're doing cheese, or I'm doing milk or cottage cheese, sour cream, something like that. It cuts off a lot of the airflow from the bottom because you need a solid tray and to dehydrate just from the top. You don't want to stack something very tall with these because there's less airflow, and it does take longer because you're only getting air from the top. So don't try to use your solid trays. It's going to take a lot longer and you'll probably have wilting. So I'm going to lay in my mesh liner here, and I'm looking for my scissors. Now you want to look at the back of your flowers, and the quickest way to do it, you can cut them off meticulously, but if you've got a flower that's not too huge, just pick it up, put your fingers firmly on one side like this, and just pop it right off. Sometimes you get lucky and they pop off and don't really leave much of a stem. Other times, not so much. So that's just a quick way to go through and pop all the flower heads off. And then you go flip it over, handling it gently so you don't lose or disturb the flowers, especially, or the petals, especially if you're going to use this for decoration. Just lay your scissors, rest them right on the back of the flower head, give it a little cut, and you want to have as almost no nubbin as possible. Now see, this has a little bit of a nubbin, so it might not sit completely flush, but the more you try to cut down in there, you're going to end up cutting the back of the flower head and cause some wilting. And perhaps cut it just slightly, but when it dries, it can crack. So don't be worried about being 100% flush. You just want it as simply flush as possible. Cut off the stem. Now you can preserve the stems and the flowers, and there's lots of leaves, and there's lots of uses for them, but you should do those on a separate tray. You want to keep things that are in like width and depth and weight together for even drying. And I'm just going to give a little snip here. Now if I put one on, that's a pretty big nubbin. If I try to put that there, that's how the flower is going to lay, and it's not going to dry properly. So just give it a cut and lay it down. And you're just going to spread them out so there's good air ventilation. It's slightly reduced with the mesh liner, but not entirely. Use the mesh liner. Maybe it'll cost you an extra 15 to 30 minutes of drying time. But just don't overfill them. Give about a finger's width in between all your flowers. You're doing stems, it's going to take longer, and you can chop them up. You can pull your leaves off or leave the leaves on and use a mesh liner. So you just put them in here, you fill that tray up, do the next one, same thing. Now depending on your machine, and if you've not used one before, you can get one for $60 to $150, a typical residential machine. And yes, they do go higher and they do go cheaper. But that range would get you a pretty good quality, middle of the road machine for your home. And it might take a few times of using it to tell how many trays you really want to put on. You can buy all kinds of trays and you can stack them 12 high if you wanted to. But I recommend never going more than 4 or 5 high if you have a good quality machine. It just takes longer, uses more electricity, because the more trays you have, the longer it can take to dry. So I would rotate these around. Let's say 8 to 10 hours, but usually I just sit it on in the evening, and then in the morning I get up and turn the machine off. And I like to flip the trays around about every 2 hours. It could be an hour, it can be 2.5, but it just gives a nice rotation if your machine isn't really heavy duty and you have a lot of materials in here. That gives everything a chance to be at the top near the fan to get a good intense drying before you take it out. And that's all there is to it. Store it in a vac seal bag, a mason jar, Ziploc baggie. Depending on what you're using them for, you could even powder them up afterwards as a space saver if you're going to use it for home remedies or as a sprinkling on a salad or a casserole. But you just want to, even if you are going to use these for crafts, you still want to store them in an airtight container, because the more they're exposed to sunlight and air and moisture, then they can get murky and rehydrate, and you just don't want that. To keep them to stay dry all the time without soaking up moisture in the room, or especially if you're going to make a wreath to hang on a door. You want to put some kind of clear coat on them. People use aerosol hairspray. I don't, just because I don't use that. I don't like using chemical type things in the house. But there are things that you can use to do a clear coat on dried flowers that are more low tox. And you just kind of see what works for you. You can mix something up, you can buy something up. There's sprays at Walmart you can put on them. But give them a little shellac spray will definitely make them last a lot longer if they're going to be used for decoration. If you've dehydrated flowers before and have some great success stories, some epic failures, some great tips I neglected to mention, please feel free to share them in our comments section below.